How we doing? Ready for step number 7. Meg.
Step number 7, how little we know. The aim of this step is threefold. 1, to appreciate the unknown and the unknowable. 2, to become sensitive to overconfidence and certainty in ourselves and in others. And 3, to become aware of the mystery in each human being we encounter during the day.
Step number 8, and this is one that I share with my 2 kids who are 8 and 11, particularly my 11-year-old. How should we speak to one another? So imagine my 11-year-old Emerson. Emerson's his name. When you argue, do you get carried away by your own cleverness? Do you get personal? Will the points you make further the cause of understanding? Or when you fight with your sister, will it make it worse? Are you really listening to the person you are arguing with? And what would happen if you allowed yourself to lose the argument? And when we have hard things to say, do we say them gently?
Step number 9 moves to concern for everybody. And during this step, we ask, what does it mean to engage the life and lives that are not our own? What does it mean to call to mind the people you have not met, the people who built your home, who made your furniture, who baked the bread you are eating, who picked the beans for the coffee you drank earlier this morning? And as you set off to work, to school, to church, ask about the people who built the roads and paths you travel on, the people who carried stone and stirred cement, the people who built what you move in. We are what we are because of the hard work, insights, and achievements of countless others, the people who we often never see.
Step 10, knowledge. Find time to get to know just one, or maybe even 2, strangers who belong to a different religion or a different culture than yours. Ask yourself, what can this person teach me that I need to know? Are there things that this other religion and this other culture do better than mine does? Have they influenced our lives in the past? And ask them, what do you think that you can teach me?
Step number 11 is recognition. The ability, the desire to look at your world anew. After working through all these other steps, you may find that you're more sensitive to the joy and the sorrow that is present wherever we look. Notice it. Recognize the happiness, the goodness, and also the loneliness and the heartache in your own community, your own town, your family. Contrary to what you may think, recognizing the joy and the pain of others will not drain you. In fact, you may even find that working to alleviate the distress of others or sharing in their joy will make you a good deal happier.
And finally, step number 12. Karen Armstrong asks us to love our enemies. She says this is the supreme test of compassion. So I want us to bring to mind someone or something that seems to threaten you. And I want us to acknowledge our deep anger at that person or that thing. And then I want us to remember that we can become, you and I, twinned with that enemy. And we can come to resemble the very thing that we hate in them. And so what will it mean for you to overcome your anger and your hatred? And at first it's going to seem impossible to you. But if you have the will and the desire, this exercise can change your patterns of hostility and suspicion and disgust. Because we are bound to our enemies by our shared anger. And thus we share with them the very same challenge. Do we stay enemies or do we become something quite different? Thank you, Meg. So I didn't go to General Assembly this past year. I wanted a year off. So I did watch, though, Karen Armstrong's, like I mentioned earlier, her YouTube lecture to Unitarian Universalists. And she outlined these 12 steps. And if you're like I was sitting in the pews, I was at my laptop, I was like, well, that's totally impossible. I'm totally daunted. I can barely get to work in the morning. I can barely make breakfast for my kids without, yes, exactly, yelling at them. The thing that I know about Unitarian Universalists, or people who are even not sure what they are religiously but come to a congregation like this, is that we like to achieve things, right? We like to perform well. In our denomination, in our movement, there are a lot of A-type personalities. So the challenge of this sermon is for you to shake that letter A off. Okay? I'm going to give you a definition for compassion. I'm going to tell you what it's not. And then most importantly, I'm going to tell you a true story that I saw, that happened to me. So first, I want to tell us what compassion is not. Because often as Unitarian Universalists, we love to define ourselves in opposition to something. So here's what compassion is not. It is not a Hallmark card word. It is not just a pulpit word, or a lectionary word, or a minister word, or a Sunday morning word. Compassion does not mean pitying somebody. It does not mean that I'm a really, really, really nice guy. Compassion is not easy, and also compassion is not impossible. So I love words. I love their etymology. I love their origins. This word that we use that has become so complacent, hasn't it, and even romanticized, comes from the Greek pathine and the Latin patiri, and this is what it literally means: to endure something with someone else. It means to feel her pain. It means to walk inside his shoes. It means to stand with them at a particular moment in time. It means to feel with them what they're feeling. And the challenge, the compassion challenge, if I'm thinking of our sermon title, is how do we bring those words to life so they're not just reserved for Sunday mornings or for the CVS card aisle. How do we bring it to life? And I think about this stuff all the time, and I preach about it all the time, but often I notice it misses me. So I want to tell us a story of 3 people that I witnessed, and then I'm going to tell us how they met, okay? So first, I want us to just draw an image in your mind of a woman named Janice. Now, I don't know Janice, I just met her once, but these are some of the things that I imagined about her after I met her. I imagined about Janice that 12 years ago she left her home, country of her birth, Ghana, and then she came here to eastern Massachusetts. She bounced around Boston, Roxbury, landed in Holliston, the town that I live in. And she was drawn here because Janice's husband died suddenly, and she was alone. And the only family she had left was her sister, who lived here in Massachusetts. Now, in Ghana, Janice was a professional person. She was a teacher. She taught high school kids, and she was fantastic at her job. But when she came here, like a lot of immigrants, she had a hard time finding work to match her skills. She did not have the right certification, the right degree. So after 15 months of bouncing around all kinds of jobs, she landed a position at a home health aid facility for the elderly. Janice was really good at this position. So good that after 2 years, they promoted her to be the supervisor. And they put her at a new, brand new, beautiful facility. It's a small place in Holliston. And it was at the end of a lovely, quiet cul-de-sac. surrounded by large, let's call them trophy homes. It was an unexpected place to find a facility like this on a cul-de-sac like that. In fact, the home was not without controversy. But Janice loved how the surroundings made the place feel like an actual home and not just an institution, if you know what I mean. And in the late afternoons, especially when it was warm, she would take the patients out to the front yard, and she'd watch the neighborhood kids come out into the cul-de-sac on their bikes and skateboards and play basketball. One time on a particularly beautiful afternoon this August, it was a beautiful night. The whole staff of this facility went out in that front yard and started playing with the hula hoops the kids had given them so that all the residents could watch them. Going out to that front yard softened the edges for what was hard work, 10-hour days. She loved this job, but it took its toll. She tried to have empathy, step number 4, even as she reminded how much she didn't know about these folks, step number 7. Next, we have Janice in our minds. Next, I want us to meet Christine. Now again, I don't know Christine, but these are the things that I imagine about her in the brief time that I met her. I imagine that 10 years ago she was single and young and living the single life in Jamaica Plain. And now, 10 years later, she is a young mom. She's out in the suburbs, and she's parenting with her husband 3 kids who are under the age of 7. The kids are beautiful, but parenting, for those of you who are parents, is exhausting to her. She is tired all the time. Now, money is tight for Christine. She only works part-time, and her husband has not had a raise since the recession began. And they are struggling every month to pay this huge mortgage on this home, this trophy home that they love. But it is worth it to them because it is their dream. There's a beautiful front yard, a beautiful backyard, there's a huge kitchen, there's plenty of room, and it's located at the end of a lovely cul-de-sac that's quiet. Kids can ride their scooters free of worry. All this changed for Christine 2 years ago when she learned that an elder care home was being erected in her cul-de-sac. And she didn't want to embody the not in my backyard mentality that always troubled her when she read about other people and other places in the newspaper. So Christine, she tried to be mindful. She tried to perform step 5, be mindful. She tried to step back and not react out of the impulse to oppose this home because it changed her neighborhood. It changes your property values, said her friend. But some days for Christine were better than others, and she often lost patience with the increased traffic. All the employees would come up and down the street, and most importantly, the ambulances that would come every hour of the day to bring new patients in or take patients who were not well out. I know I should feel concerned for these people, she would say, looking in the mirror, echoing step 9. But, and then her voice would trail off, silently frustrated at her surroundings, at her home that had changed. So can we imagine Christine? The last person that I want us to meet is named Betty. Again, I did not know Betty. I'm only imagining things after my one interaction with her, but this is what I imagine about her. I imagine that she was born in 1935 in Georgia. She is the twin sister in a family with 5 other children. And the birth was hard for Betty. And while her sister was born beautiful and healthy, for just a moment, the oxygen was deprived for Betty. And she never developed beyond the age of an 8-year-old child. She was dependent on her twin sister, who was her protector. So as adults, they moved to Los Angeles from Georgia, and they had a happy life there as best they could. But later in life, Betty's health declined to the point that her sister could no longer take care of her anymore. And with a sense of great resignation, her sister decided to accept her brother's offer and send her to Massachusetts. On the phone, he says to both sisters, "There's a new place for me. They just built it. It's gorgeous. It's at the end of a cul-de-sac. I know it's not home, but it's the best we can do." The brother acting step 6 out of compassion for both sisters, but also knowing how painful it is for them. And so now, I know it's February, but I want us to imagine a late summer day. It's late August. You know how the light is in late August? It's clear. There's a hint of coolness in the air, reminding us that fall is coming. And Janice, remember Janice? She's inside the home of that facility, preparing 10 trays for 10 meals. And the other staff members she works with, there are only 2, is in a resident's room, taking care of a crisis. The place is busy. It's chaotic even. It's noisy. So noisy and busy and chaotic that no one sees Betty as she wheels herself down the hallway of this facility, unseen, and she opens the door, the side door out of the home, unseen. And then she wheels herself to the top of the inclined driveway of that home, unseen. Why is Betty there? Maybe she can hear the kids playing. Maybe the light reminds her of Los Angeles. Maybe she wants to get fresh air. The day that I happened to be there in that cul-de-sac, picking up my 11-year-old who was playing with a friend in another one of those homes, I didn't know any of this. All I saw was Betty at the top of that driveway scoot herself forward in the chair. And then I saw the chair and Betty gather momentum down that driveway. And then I saw the chair take a hard right. And then I saw Betty tumble and roll and fall all the way down that steep driveway, my friends, to the bottom. And do you know how sound travels slower sometimes than vision? After the vision of the fall, there is the sound. There is a wailing, and there is a moaning, and there is a crying. And then what do we see? From across the street, we see Christine. Christine on the porch with her children. Christine who is drinking coffee because she was up all night because the ambulances woke her yet again. Christine who needs coffee after coffee because her 4-year-old has been up since 4 in the morning. Christine, there she is, putting the coffee down and running across the street, running to Betty's side. Step 6, action. Running to Betty's side. Step 9, concern for someone unlike herself. Running to her side. Step 11, recognizing someone's pain. Betty cries, "I just want to go back to LA. I just want to go back to my sister." Janice is inside preparing the meals, and she hears all of this commotion. She hears all the noise. And she comes running out of the side door, the door that should have been locked, but wasn't, because we all make mistakes. "Betty," she yells. And then more softly up to her side, "Betty." And Christine puts her hand under Betty's shoulder, lifting her up onto the sitting position. And then seeing Janice coming down the driveway, Janice, who she sees all the time but has never met, all of the frustration that Christine feels about her home and her cul-de-sac and everything that's changed, she rises up with anger. "Why weren't you keeping an eye on this woman? Where were you?" And Janice just imagines this suburban mom who's concerned with herself and has all the money in the world. Janice says, "You ever done a job like this? You ever worked 10-hour days? You ever tried to care for 10 grown people?" But then more softly, step 8, how we speak to one another. She says to Christine, Janice says, "I'm sorry. I am sorry you had to be here. Thank you." Remember, Betty is just sitting there on the sidewalk. "I just want to go back to LA, she says. "I just want to go back to my sister." Now you can imagine, it's the quiet suburbs, but there is a crowd now. And I'm among that crowd. And together, we need to lift Betty back into her chair. And despite the pain that she is in and the cut elbow, she fights us so hard, I can't even tell you. She is screaming, "I do not want to go back inside. Don't let me go there. Don't let me go there." She is panicking. But there is Christine, and there is Janice, and they're on either side of her ears, trying to calm her down. They are almost in chorus. They are like a choir, really. These two women who, while not enemies, are not friends. What do they say? "We are here, Betty. It is okay. We understand. Shh." And together, these two women wheel Betty back up the driveway, calming her down, back inside, calming her down, back into her room, calming her down. I know a sermon when I see one. My point in telling us this true story is not so that we pity Betty or dislike Christine or judge Janice. It is to take us inside the lives of these three women for just a moment, for just an hour on a Sunday morning, and to walk inside their shoes, to imagine their stories, and to nurture compassion for where they are coming from. Because this I do know, whether it's my congregation in Sherburne or here in Reading, there is a version of Janice in this room, there is a version of Christine in each one of your lives, and there is a version of Betty who you know. Some days we notice them, some days you and I are completely blind to them, and some days if we are attentive, we are witnesses, you and I, to the compassion that is at work in them, and sometimes even in us. So these are the questions I leave us with. Where and with whom are you invited toward compassion on this first Sunday in February in the year 2012. And I want us, before the game today, to think specifically of a person. Which step out of the 12 do you need to work on? Just pick one. Is there a hard phone call you have to make? Is there a different practice that you need to adopt? Is there a face-to-face conversation that you need to have? And then ask yourself, in what ways is my stamina stretched thin for this compassion challenge? And then ask yourself, in what ways is my stamina for this compassion challenge restored? May we know, you and I, that we have chances all day, every day, to answer this question. May we know, maybe most importantly, that you and I are forgiven for all of the missed opportunities. And may we know that we can begin again each day in love. Say with me, amen. Amen. And blessed be. It's great.